again, it's Greta from Crafty, and I'm going to walk you through the two-tone ranunculus here in the September Crafty Guide. This is the 4th flower in your guide. So I already cut out my patterns, and I used them to cut out with felt 2 circles. So the circle pattern you'll use twice with 2 different colors of felt. And then the center, I used a 3rd color to cut it out. So I have my pieces and I'm ready to go. So the way that we're gonna create this two-tone look is by stacking 2 pieces of felt and cutting it into a spiral together. Just a wide spiral in the exact same way that you did the last 2 flowers. This will allow us to roll it around itself and create a really pretty layered look. Now some felt just wants to be tricky, and if you're having trouble cutting 2 pieces of felt at the same time, I have found that felts, like from piece to piece, you'll find different thicknesses and even different textures sometimes from the same manufacturer. And so if you're having trouble with cutting 2 pieces at the same time, you can definitely cut these separately, and we're gonna glue them together anyway, so that's totally fine. When I get to the center here, I'm gonna have this little tab that is created at the very end, and I'm just gonna cut that off because I want an empty center, just like the last 2 flowers. So you can see here, I have 2 spirals, and what I'm gonna do now is glue them on top of each other, and this will get them to really align nicely when we create our two-tone ranunculus. So I'm going to lift up a little bit at a time and just glue as I go. So this helps me keep these really nicely aligned so they really, you get that two-tone look and not like just a layered look like you had layered in 2 pieces. It really does look like they are wrapped around each other if you do it this way. So if you do it a little bit of time, it's just easier to keep it together. If you were to pick the whole top spiral up and then like glue it back down, I just find that a little bit harder to really align them again before the glue dries. So I suggest doing it this way. And we're almost done here. This is gonna keep them together really nicely. Let me actually align those a little bit better. And then we'll do the home stretch here. Okay, so my 2 pieces are together now, and I'm gonna set that aside for just a moment. Now I have my center ranunculus piece, and this is gonna create a really, a fringed look, like it's coming out from the flower. And so I am gonna do that by fringing this piece, and I'm gonna leave enough at the bottom that it doesn't disconnect. But I'm gonna fringe this piece in, I would say this maybe like 1/8 of an inch. I'm kind of terrible at estimation, but it really doesn't matter because it is not an exact science. So I like to use the tip of my scissors so that I don't cut too deeply. I have cut this piece in half one time as I was going. Luckily you have plenty of felt in case that happens. And we're just gonna fringe this whole piece, and this is gonna become the center of our flower. All right, we are ready to roll. So you can see that this piece is nicely fringed. Now we're gonna take a piece of floral wire that you cut earlier, and we're going to glue it to the very end of this piece. And this will just allow us to hang it on our wreath when we're done with this flower. It's really hard to attach these flowers to the metal wreath without some sort of wire to attach with, because we just don't have much surface there on the wreath. Okay, while that's gluing, I'm gonna go ahead and glue down the end here, and I'm gonna roll this whole piece around itself. So I'm just gonna start rolling, and you can do a little bit of glue at a time if you feel like you can't work that quickly. That's totally fine. Do it in 2 or 3 little stretches there. And we have our cute little center. That's gonna be the center of our two-tone ranunculus. Now we're gonna welcome our spirals back into the picture over here, and we're gonna glue this down onto the middle, and that's because we're gonna roll around it. It'll become our center, so we're gonna glue it down on its side like this, right here at the end of our spiral. And you can kind of glue it in the middle. It's not as vital to glue it in the exact right position for it to be like flush with the felt, because you're probably gonna wanna trim it at the end anyway. So now we're going to do the same thing we did on the last two. We're gonna start rolling this piece around itself. So let's start with a little bit of glue there, and we work around this wire and just start rolling this felt around itself. It's always a little awkward getting started, but it gets easier there in the middle. And then if you've watched the last two, you know that it gets tricky again at the end. It's just the way these spirals like to fall. It just is a little bit tricky. So we're just gonna wrap this around itself. You can see that two-tone look already happening. I love easy ways to create felt flowers, like beautiful felt flowers, because I think there are a million different ways you can do it. But some of them, you end up cutting a million petals or adding little tiny details, and they're so pretty, but you spend like an hour on one flower. And so the reason I like these in the September box and what we have in our guide is just because they're very simple flowers, but very beautiful flowers. So we're gonna roll this around itself. You can see that two-tone look really happening. And let's do the home stretch here. Whoops. And we'll just get this all the way around. So there you can see our flower. I have a few glue flyaways here that I'm gonna just pluck off. They're super easy to get off. And you can see how beautiful this flower is with the three different colors. Now that we're done, you can see that the fringe is sticking up over the top. And so I'm just gonna give that a haircut. And all those little bits go flying, but it makes it more level. I also have a couple spots sticking up as I go around. And so I'm just gonna give those a little trim. And that is our two-tone ranunculus for our felt flower wreath.